Hey friend, have you found yourself wondering that age-old question, is it finished? How do you know when your creative work is complete and ready to share? In today's episode, we're talking about sharing your music and the art of letting go. Sometimes that letting go means putting your songs out there in the world to be interpreted and judged as they will. And sometimes that letting go means putting a piece to rest, allowing it to remain unfinished, or perhaps tucking it away to be used in another form later on. But how do you know if you're just stalling or if you're actually honing it to a higher level of excellence? How do you know if you're really ready? Well, I've got just the episode for you. So let's get comfy and dig in. Welcome to Reawaken Your Voice. I'm Lainey Prendeville Crawford, holistic voice coach, singer, song weaver. I believe the song in your heart holds medicine for yourself and for the world. And yet too often, something happens along the way. We shut down our voice and our song goes unsung. Whether you stopped singing years ago or have always harbored an unrealized dream to start, if you're ready to finally give voice to those unsung songs in your heart, then take my hand as I guide you to free yourself from the inner critic, reignite your creativity, find your courage, sing with confidence, and reawaken those dormant parts of yourself aching for a revival. So dust off your songbooks, tune up your guitar, bust out your singing bowls, your shakers, your drum. Actually, all you really need is your voice, your breath, open ears, and an open heart. Let's play. When we're opening up to sharing our voice in the world, it's so easy to get stuck in this trap of uncertainty, this perpetual cycle of not ready yet, unsure of whether or not your music, your song, your creative work is finished, or if you're ready to share it. I know you want excellence, but if you do too much, you risk overworking your art or picking it apart so much that it no longer resembles anything close to wholeness. But if you don't do enough, you risk putting something out there that you're not really proud of. Like, you know you could do better. So I've come up with 5 questions to ask yourself to determine if it's time to let go. Whether that means calling it finished or choosing to lay it to rest. And if so, how to move forward so you can keep that creativity flowing. So get out your journal and favorite pens. Here are 5 questions to ask yourself to get some clarity on this. So here's what we'll be going over. Number 1, what would it mean if it was finished? Number 2, what would it mean to let people see my messy, rough drafts? Number 3, does it have roots and wings? Number 4, how has this piece of art worked its medicine on me? And number 5, if I were to embrace and embody and step into the identity of creating as a lifestyle, how would I choose to move forward? I'll share with you how I've been applying these questions to my current project, and we'll also go deeper into each question to really give you some things to reflect on, some deeper insight into what they really mean and how you can apply them to whatever season you're in with your creation. So I have mentioned this previously in some previous episodes, but I'm currently working on recording some old songs from what feels like another lifetime. And I want a sense of closure so I can keep moving forward and keep creating with fresh inspiration. I really want to have a body of work that I continue to build on. I don't want to just have a bunch of half-written songs collecting dust in my closet until the day I die. I want them to be alive and free and resound in hearts long after the day I die. Seems a little bit morbid, but these are the things I think of. How do I want to spend my life? What kind of a legacy do I want to leave? So at some point, I have to decide with each song or each creative work, okay, that'll do. All the little transitions in songs or the little interludes and melodies, they could go in so many different directions, which is sometimes the greatest struggle. But if I revisit this another day, it could become something totally different. And it's the path untraveled, But at some point, I just have to write what's coming through in the moment and leave it and say, that works. There's a letting go of, like I said, the path not taken. A letting go of all the possible melodies that could have been, all the possible lyrics or rhymes or what have yous. At a certain point, I have to choose and commit. So I'm ready to archive these old songs and move on to something fresh. I have a project. I know there's this full album that wants to come to life and is already there in pieces. But to really go all in with that and move into this fresh space, I feel like I want to release and let go of these old songs, whether that means recording some of them and archiving them. Okay, this was just a moment in time and there it is. And some of them, it's laying them to rest and being okay, that was a process, part of the creative process, but I don't want to do anything more with this. It served its purpose. It is what it is. These old songs, they're almost like a weight. There's old ties or old cords holding me back from moving forward into this fresh space. So I'm really faced with this question myself. Is it finished? Is it time to release them and let them go? And sometimes that means polishing them to completion. Sometimes that means allowing them to forever remain unfinished. And as harsh as it may sound, sometimes I wonder, is it ready to give up on this song? Either throw it away or recycle it. It served its purpose. even if that was just to practice my craft or spend time in the creative process, even if I didn't produce anything that I feel is worth sharing or worth recording, maybe it was more about playing with an idea to see where it took me, to see if it had roots and wings. And we'll get into that and what I mean in more depth. But if you are consistently creating, you'll have some gems and you'll have some turds. Like, I've definitely got both. I'm going to be real. Part of being an artist is being honest with yourself and having discernment. So I'm sorting through that right now to determine which is which. Is this a gem or is it a turd or something in between? Maybe I could pull something of beauty from it and use it in a new way. But this comes back to consistency. As I've been spending some time in the recording studio, I've been working with this wonderful, amazing gift of a person as my recording engineer. And she shared with me something really profound, a way that I'd never looked at this. But she said that some people come in to record like every week with whatever they have, just as a treat to themselves and just as a way to keep that creative flow going. So what if we make it less of a big deal and more of a normal, natural, everyday part of life? The creating, the making music, the singing and writing and sharing. What if we could make that a lifestyle? This podcast is also an example. Sharing my voice through this podcast is also a creative outlet for me. Each episode is like a creative work in and of itself. There's this creative process, just like the birthing of a song. But if I want to keep moving forward consistently and keep creating week after week, then I really need to hone in on the art of letting go and the art of discernment. So in this honing process, I've come up with 5 questions to ask yourself. So I'll start with number 1. What would it mean if it were finished? What would it say about you? Like, then what? What would you have to do then if it was finished? What truths would you have to reveal? When you start to look into this, you can see if it's something you're avoiding or if there's something you're stalling on. Often we hold on out of attachment or fear of how others may interpret or perceive the work. But to find the true source of this fear of letting go hinges on this very question. What would it mean if it was finished? And that can feel so big and overwhelming when you see the bigger vision, but you can't seem to see how to get from where you are to where you see yourself being. Like, well, if it's finished, then I have to figure out how to market it and promote it and how to put it out there. And I'd have to tell people about it. People I love would hear it. Truth within the lyrics would be revealed. My heart on my sleeve. Number 2, what would it mean to let people see my messy, rough drafts? So for this question, I'm really talking about the possibility of sharing your work in progress, sharing the messy middle, sharing your rough drafts. Is there a way to share your work in progress in a supportive environment with people who have a growth mindset? Like, is there a low stakes kind of environment where you could just practice sharing it and see what happens? Use the experience to make it better. Maybe to receive constructive feedback or just reflect on your own. What worked? What didn't? What needs smoothing out? When I was in this process of growing my confidence and easing my way into sharing my voice again, I would share in singing circles. Some songs didn't even have a title or a bridge or an ending. Sometimes there was a really awkward transition, but I was sharing the process. And even with a messy, rough draft, there was still value there. It still had the power to move people. And, as a little bonus, they also could see my humanity, like my messy human self and all the imperfections, and get to see like the creative process at work. That's kind of cool. It's like now I'm sharing the recording process for my songs, like kind of sharing with you each step of the way what I'm experiencing. This podcast is also a living, breathing thing that keeps evolving. So in a way, like I'm sharing that creative process with you. Maybe I'll look back at these first few episodes and think, oh, what was I thinking? Or, wow, I've come so far. But to keep it alive, you must keep creating. Your work will evolve. You are human. You are here to grow and learn and shift perspectives as parts of you are shifting and transforming. Let people see the process. That is art. The art of being human and living a creative life. The art of trying things and failing, or trying things and rising. This is really about allowing yourself to be seen in all your humanness, which is why it feels so difficult sometimes. But it helps to remember we're all human, and that reminder is so palpable in a supportive environment where you can share these things. So is there like a singing circle locally or an open mic you could go to and just play a song you've been working on? Maybe there's a songwriter's circle. Seek out these opportunities to just practice sharing. Even if you're like, pull your best friend aside and be like, okay, can you listen to this? You don't have to say a word, just sit and listen. Or maybe there's someone who you want to receive feedback from. Letting people see your work in progress is a way to really deepen human connection, as we are all works in progress. Number 3, does it have roots and wings? So there's this tree in the backyard of the home I grew up in, my childhood home. And there once stood this grand 100-plus-year-old elm tree. And it was like the center of the backyard. It was first base. It had a tire swing in it that we could reach to the sky in, or spin around in circles. Like, we were crazy. How did we do that? But anyways, I digress. A very special tree, okay? And it came time to take down the tree, or else it would take down us. Yes, it was dying. Its branches were bare and some becoming hollow. It was time. So we took down the tree, and where it once stood, from the roots of that old elm tree, a new baby elm tree sprouted up. And we took great lengths and measures to protect this little baby tree, because we knew that the root system was strong. So we let it grow and grow and grow. And now it's going to be another one of those giant trees decades from now. And it's strong and it's healthy and it's growing. There's this quote about roots and wings. But the quote goes something like this: there are 2 lasting gifts that parents should leave their children. One is roots, and the other is wings. At the foot of that tree, there is now a plaque in memory of my dad that says, it has that quote, and it says, in loving memory of the man who gave us both. So when we're talking about our music, our songs, our creative work, we want to give them roots, a strong foundation, good solid structure. But we also want them to have wings. The freedom to take on a life of its own, to be itself, to take flight beyond the safety of the nest. I've heard from many of my students, my songs are my babies. Do you ever feel that way? I know I've felt that way before. Do you ever feel like you'd be abandoning your babies if you let go and completed a song or a creative project and let it fly out there? like sending it out into the cruel world to be beaten down and poked and prodded and tainted and corrupted. Because in a way, you gave it life. When that breath of inspiration flowed into you, you conceived of the idea, you carried it with you while it grew, and then you birthed it into being. So it's almost like you're a mother of songs. So it can be hard to let go. You know, when I graduated college, I moved abroad. Well, first I moved out of state, and then I moved abroad, and I traveled extensively solo by myself. And my parents had to let me go. Now that I'm a parent myself, I'm like, how hard was that for them? But, you know, they gave me my roots and they gave me my wings and they said, fly, little one, fly. So how do you know if your song has roots and wings? You practice sharing. You practice this process of gradual release. This comes back to the messy, rough drafts, or maybe more like revised and edited. But you're practicing sharing. You can do this through live performance, and it helps you to see if it has wings. And by this, I mean, is it ready to take off? Is it ready to take on a life of its own? And you can't really know that until you take to the sky with open arms on a wing and a prayer. Through the practice of sharing it, you can see what worked, what didn't, what felt awkward, like was something missing. And you can do the same thing with a demo recording. No one even has to hear it but you. Like, record what you have and then listen back, let it wash over you, and listen for where your ear wants it to go and if you've fulfilled that or not. It's also, you're listening for the roots, the structure. Like, is it solid? Do you need to move around some chords? Do you need to work on the rhythm? Do you need to really hone your lyrics? Does it have a good phrasing structure? So I recently, in preparation for the recording studio, I recorded one of my songs just like as a demo, like I just mentioned, to listen back and let it wash over me. And I realized for the first time after playing this song for years, after working on it for years, I realized it was 9.5 minutes long. I had no idea. I was always just in the zone. I was losing track of time. You know how it is in that pocket of creative flow. And I kept adding on. I felt like there was more to say. And now we know there are no rules to how you want to create your art. Like, I could have left it at 9.5 minutes. Okay. But for this song, I knew I'd lose people and it had to be cut back. I knew that I was kind of diluting the message if I was just stretching it out and repeating it over and over. There were certain things that I had to cut back that I wanted to. You know, I made that choice. So I was able to make those changes because I asked myself this question: does it have roots? Does it have wings? Let it wash over me and saw what was really strong and what was needed in that structure, and then like, can this be sent out into the world and fly free? So that begs the question, well, what if it doesn't have roots or wings? Either you take it back to the drawing board and rework it, or some songs will forever remain unfinished. Yes, some songs are not meant to be finished. They served their purpose in the moment. Perhaps it helped you grow or just practice your craft, helped you see something in a new light. But at the end of the day, it wasn't the cream of the crop. There are some songs that just won't make the cut. If you produce a large quantity of songs, some of them will be of greater quality than others. So sometimes the art of letting go actually has to do with the rejects. To put it harshly, the ones you discard. Like, if there's a part of it you love, you can always repurpose it in another song. I've done that, and it worked way better in the new form. So sometimes it's not worth polishing a turd. And sometimes there's a little golden nugget within the turd. And you have to extract it and clean it up, maybe melt it down, but you can actually make something pretty out of it. Okay, I'll leave that analogy as it is. I'll leave it there. But this question is a really powerful one. Does it have roots and wings? And this is answered through action, through practice, and through discernment. Number 4, how has this piece of art worked its medicine on me? I've found that often at first, the piece comes to you to bring you the medicine you need to heal something, or to make sense of something, or to express something that you want to put words to or put music to. But then there comes a time when it's time to pass it along, to share it with other people who need the medicine that it carries. So how has it helped you to heal or make sense of or navigate life? Or has it taught you the lessons you needed to carry with you to the next phase? Has it worked its medicine on you? Or do you feel like there's more treasure, more pearls of wisdom, more gems there for you to uncover? Do you find yourself moving on creatively and internally? Keep in mind, there's often a final wave of the medicine that comes when you actually release it or share it or put it out there in whatever form. Maybe it's recorded form. Maybe it's live form. That's part of the full cycle of catharsis, transmutation, that final letting go. So maybe there's still that little piece to come. Perhaps there's a bit of that each time you sing it, even, as there should be. But there's this inner knowing that it it has worked its medicine on you, and you're ready to move forward, to move on from it. So what is the next step or phase of your healing journey with this particular piece of music? And maybe it's not so much the healing journey as just something that transforms you, that changes you. So has it worked its medicine on you? And how? Really reflect on this. Okay, number 5. If I were to embrace and embody and step into the identity of creating as a lifestyle, how would I choose to move forward? Now remember the importance of healthy detachment. No one work has to define you or define your art or your self-worth. Don't let it. Instead of letting this one piece of art define your identity, choose the identity of creating as a lifestyle. You are an artist. Keep creating. You are not your voice. You are not your songs. You are not your business, your job, your titles, even your giftings. We're going for consistency, sustainable growth, creating as a lifestyle. So you're building a body of work over time. This doesn't have to define you. This is just part of your story. And it comes down to a simple decision. I said simple, not easy. So set a deadline. Put it in writing, put it in sound, in a recording. If the big project feels too big, start small. Start with one song. What's that one thing that will move you forward in letting go? For me, I didn't feel ready for my recording session that I just had a couple weeks ago. Everything inside of me wanted to reschedule. Everything but this part of me deep down that knew I was full of it. The part of me that knew I would never feel ready. The part of me that knew it was a learning experience, if nothing else. The part of me that knew I would feel defeated if I copped out on this project at the last minute, because I was afraid it wouldn't be good enough. Well, now I can tell you, I followed through. I did it. And my confidence grew. I felt proud of myself. I learned so much. I got some really good stuff recorded. And I saw where I can do some work, practice for the next session. Because guess what? This is a lifestyle and we get to keep going. That one session is just the beginning of the journey ahead. And so each time I learn, I grow, I practice. My roots get stronger, my wings get stronger. And this is what I hope for you. That you can move forward using your intuition, your discernment to decide, is this finished? Am I ready? And remember, I did just say I didn't feel ready. You probably won't feel ready. But do you choose your art anyway? Do you listen to that deeper part of yourself, your true voice that says, let go, surrender, take flight? So let's recap these questions. Number 1, what would it mean if it was finished? Number 2, what would it mean to let people see my messy, rough drafts? Number 3, does it have roots and wings? Number 4, how has this piece of art worked its medicine on me? And number 5, if I were to embrace and embody and step into the identity of creating as a lifestyle, how would I choose to move forward? So take some time, go within, journal on these questions, and then something else you can do just for you is like a little release ceremony, whatever that looks like for you. If you have a piece of art that you're ready to let go of, whether that means releasing it into the world or putting it to rest and letting it remain unfinished. Something you can do is to just create a little release ceremony around it. Maybe you say a little prayer or do a symbolic action. I did this recently with some flowers I had picked for special things throughout the year, and I had been gathering these flowers and letting them dry, and I kept them in a little bowl and in a little vase, just, these beautiful dried flowers that I had gathered throughout the year. And I decided to return the flowers to the garden from which they came. So in a way, this is like a release ceremony for your songs. You're giving your songs back to the ethers, the air, the soil from which it emerged. It's like an offering back to God, who entrusted me to nurture and raise up these songs. Make it your own, follow your heart, your intuition to make it special for you. But when it's time, you'll know. Answer these questions and you'll have deeper insight as to whether or not you feel complete and you're ready to let go. Hey friend, thank you so much for listening. If this episode unlocked something in you or moved you in some way, I'd be so grateful if you'd leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're streaming this, and share this episode with a friend who's been praying for a vocal breakthrough. Until we meet again, keep nurturing that song in your heart. Lots of love.